Welcome to the Sales Hunter podcast. My name's Mark Hunter. Of course, I'm known as the Sales Hunter. That's why I call it the Sales Hunter podcast. But hey, today we're talking about success in life is achieved by serving others. And today it's an honor to have Bob Burg, who understands this principle better than anyone. Bob's authored, along with John David Mann, the book Go Giver, which is a Wall Street Journal and Business Week bestseller. Hey, it's got over 7,000 Amazon reviews. This one book has spawned the Go Giver book series, which I highly recommend everyone read. Let's get the show started right now.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a sales leader sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
When we're talking success in life, there's only one person you can talk to, and that's Bob Burg. Bob, welcome to the show.
Mark Hunter, great to be with you. One of my favorite people and sales heroes. Thank you.
Hey, I'll tell you what, you're a rock star in my mind. So, okay. So we'll just heap praise on each other for 22 minutes. How's that sound? hey, though, I want to get into this really quick because you have made it your passion, your calling to be serving others. That's what the Go Giver series is all about. How did that come about? What was the framework for that?
Well, okay. I think it's two parts. One is probably the greatest lesson I ever learned in sales was after I'd been in sales for a couple of years. And this, I started 40 years ago. I'm getting kind of long in the tooth here. I've been around for a while. So I started in sales about 40 years ago, and about 2 years into it, I had done pretty well after a few months of really floundering because I had no sales experience. I had gotten a couple great books. I came across a book by Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and just started to really get into that and put that to work. And within no time, with 3 weeks, my sales began to go through the roof, just following Zig's and Tom's advice in their wonderful books. They provided a system, a methodology, just like you do. And to this day, I define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles, right? So if the key is predictability. If you know that by doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, then you know all you need to do is A and continue to do A. And of course, follow our friends and colleagues, Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton's advice to just keep going for no and get past the no's, right? You know it's going to happen, that you're gonna succeed. And then we take the advice of people like you and Jeb and Anthony and Mike and all the people, what I call and Antonio now. Who does a great job, and all you got, and you put those systems to work, and it's going to work. So I found this happening for me years ago, but about 2 years after I started, I was then with another company selling a very high ticket item, and I got into a slump, and I stayed in that slump, and it was very difficult to get out of, and I made a real rookie mistake. I guess 2 years is still a rookie in sales, and instead of focusing on my prospective customers and clients, I began focusing on myself and just how am I going to get out of the slump, right? And I came back to the office one day after a non-selling appointment. It was supposed to be a selling appointment, but it wasn't.
Aren't they all supposed to be selling appointments?
Right, yeah. But this one wasn't because of my own, right? And so I must have had a disgusted look on my face because there was a gentleman there. He was an older guy, much older guy. In fact, he was just about to retire, I think. And he wasn't even in the sales department. He was in the engineering department, I think. But I think he saw me as sort of like Joe in the Go Giver, who I'd write about 20 years later, 25 years after that with John David Mann. He saw me as that young, up and coming, ambitious, aggressive, well-meaning person with a lot of potential, but who wasn't in any way coming close to fulfilling that potential because my focus was in the wrong place. And he said to me, Berg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Berg, can I give you some advice? And I said, absolutely, please do. I need it. And he said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And, Mark, that's when it hit me. That's when it hit me that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or service itself. As important as those are, it's not what it's about. Great salesmanship is about the other person, that person you're trying to serve, that person whose life you're trying to add value to. Basically, it's about that other person's life being better just because you are part of it. And I think that when we come from selling, from that perspective, as you do, and how so many of our friends do, I think that's really when we're 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Wow, you unpacked a lot right there, and I'll tell you what, I can echo that same journey. I had the problem because I was treating customers like bowling pins. My job was just to knock them down and take their money, and that wasn't working out well.
Yeah, of
And
course,
it wasn't until I got sat down by not a peer, but by my boss's boss, and said, "Hey, this isn't the way you sell."
What?
Why do people have a hard time with that? Why do people have a hard time understanding that?
Because it's human nature. It's just human nature. We are self-interested human beings, no question about that. That's how we are built. That's how we're programmed. It's how our cave person ancestors survived the day, right, and was able to pass their genes along to the next generation. But there's also something else we have to understand. If we're self-interested, so is our prospective customer or client. And here's where we need to understand that. And I say, Mark, I say this whenever I speak at sales conferences. One of the first things I'll say, and that is, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. Right? Nobody's going to buy from you because you need the money or just want the sale to happen. And nobody's going to buy from you just because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you only because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And in the still basically free market economy in which we live, that's the only reason. And when I say free market, I simply mean no one is forced to buy from you. Right. So in that kind of economy, that's the only reason why anyone will do business with you or with me or with anyone else, because they believe they'll benefit. But this is great. This is wonderful for that salesperson who really does truly have a heart for serving, for bringing immense value to another human being. And this is where we've got to take that human nature aspect, that self-interest. And this is where we've got to not deny it, because successful people don't forget about truths, right? Right. So no, we don't have to deny our self-interest, but we do have to suspend our self-interest. We've got to put that self-interest to the side, okay? And understand that to the degree we can do that and bring our full selves with a simple idea of bringing value to that person, that's actually the degree to which we increase the odds of that sale taking place.
Okay. Now, do we run the risk of over serving the customer? Because I'll be talking about this to people, and people always ask me, well, gee, what happens if I serve them too much and I don't have a chance to talk to enough people? I'd love to hear your response to that.
Yeah, that's not something that should happen. First, I think it's always important to understand that being a go-giver should never be misconstrued as being a doormat or being a martyr or being self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply understanding that to the degree you take your focus off yourself and place it on bringing value to others, that's the degree you create relationships with people where they know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to be in relationship with you, they want to do business with you, and they want to tell the world about you. Okay.
I am so glad you said that, because I run into some people, these are they call themselves the power salespeople. They'll knock down any door to get through it. And I'm here to make the sale happen, make it. And they view people who spend their time serving people as weak, as well. It's because they really can't sell. So I'm glad you called that one out. So what is the right level of service? What is the right level of giving that we should be doing for our customers?
Well, let's put it this way. Let's take it from the other angle. If what you're doing is self-sacrificial, then you're doing it wrong. Okay. Then you're right. Then we've got to say, well, why am I doing this? So no, there has to be a system in place, and there has to be, but we control the system. The system doesn't control us. Okay. Our bringing immense value to another person should not harm us. And for someone to say that yes, that would be the case, I think they're really looking at it from a counterproductive type of viewpoint. Now, let's take another example here, though, too. We've all heard the expression scope creep, and that is when you have agreed to do X amount of things, certain things for that customer, and they ask for more that's above and beyond that. Well, the question is, should you do that? Go above and beyond? Well, first, it depends. If it's coming out of a sense of strength in consciousness, well, sure. If it's coming out of weakness, then no. Mm-hmm. We also have to remember that we train people how to treat us. So if we're doing things for someone, and I'm not talking about giving that extra value that we all want to do because that's who we are. I'm talking about scope creep. I'm talking about being asked and then just assumed that we're going to do these things that we're not supposed to do. Now we've got to be able to tactfully and diplomatically share with that person that while that isn't part of, our agreement, we can certainly discuss this and, looking at another fee level in order to be able to serve you properly. Now, of course, the way we best work with this is beforehand. Right? We set the frame by having it down in writing and having whatever agreements we need to know that these are the expectations. So again, both people in the relationship understand what they can expect. Then when scope creep comes in and they keep asking us to, do things that we appropriately we shouldn't be doing. Okay. Now we can again tactfully bring them back to the agreement and say, this is what we did agree on, X, Y, and Z. Again, I'm certainly happy to revisit, what you're asking me to do. We can certainly work that out. It would just be at another fee schedule. Boom. And we handle it tactfully and graciously.
See, I think what you said there is so strong because we do train our customer during the sales process. So if we sit there and overserve them or we serve them, we do run the risk. And I've had this played back to me by several VPs of sales, other people. Well, if we serve them too much, then when they come on board as a customer, they're going to expect us to do everything for them. And my pushback has been just the same as yours. You've got to clarify.
Sure.
These are the expectations. This is where we're at. If you don't have the backbone to stand up to them, then you are going to roll over.
Well, right. And now that's a self-esteem issue. And that's something where we've got to, right. That's a self-confidence issue, a self-esteem issue, a worthiness issue, but it has nothing to do with, I'm being too nice. No, you can't be too nice. You can be weak, but that's not the same as being nice and kind and service oriented. Mm-hmm. Again, I go back to the ones who say, well, if I'm either, going to bowl everybody down in front of me or I'm weak. I think that's a treacherous dichotomy. That's a false dilemma. That's that unnecessary use of the word or, that you cannot be kind, giving, helpful without being weak. To me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. There's also this belief that if I serve them today, it's going to wind up creating a stream of revenue for me long term. The more I serve, the better the reputation I get. But sure. The other challenge is, can you serve them so much that I don't eat today because I'm building this book of business long term. And there's that balance in there. There is that balance in there. But I think you bring it up well. You have to
Yeah.
set the customer's expectations.
Exactly. Yeah, it is about setting expectations. But and I was talking with somebody about that the other day who talked about all these things they were doing for others and giving value to others, and they weren't, but they were doing things that they really shouldn't have been doing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not a matter of just being at someone's beck and call, and again, what I call inappropriately jumping through hoops, right? We always have to keep in mind is what we're about to do. Is it going to serve everyone involved? Is it going to bring immense value to them?
Mhm.
Right. But then we also have to ask, is this something that is going to harm me? Well, that's
Ah,
not good either.
wow.
So again, there's nothing self-sacrificial about being a go-giver.
Yeah. Now I want to back up because you use the word inappropriate. What is that inappropriate behavior? What's an example?
So I would say this. It depends on the person and what they're selling. Now, and I'll give you an example. It was with a lawyer who had talked about doing certain, and I won't say exactly what I'm, because I just in case
Mhm.
somebody would recognize it from a conversation, but they were doing something for someone who wasn't their client that they should only have been doing for a paying client. And they did it with the idea that if I did this, they're going to want to hire me to do that. But that wasn't necessarily the case. She could have, or he could have done some different things to help guide them along the process, providing wonderful value while they were doing it without sinking a whole lot of her time for which she should be getting paid for to do that work.
See, I like that. It doesn't mean giving away the farm.
Right,
And
exactly.
I think that's why so many people tread cautiously. I don't want to serve the customer like that. I don't want to do it because I'm bending over backwards. I'm giving them everything, and I'm not going to get compensated for it. And you're saying no, you don't do that. That's not real. That's not real serving. Yeah. So is there a guideline that you would tell salespeople? And I know every situation is different in terms of what is that appropriate level?
I think every situation is different, but I think basically it's that you give information that is going to be of value to that person. Okay. But you don't do something where if it doesn't work out later, you're going to be really ticked at yourself.
Mm,
Right. So that's why I say you can give away a whole lot of value so long as you're doing it out of a sense of strength, not a sense of weakness. Right. If you feel you're having to jump through these hoops because, oh, I have to do this, otherwise something this is XYZ is going to happen that's bad, you probably should revisit if you're doing it for the right reason.
okay. There's a saying that you should give without the expectation of getting anything in return. Is that valid in this?
Here's what I call it. I've never actually called it give without expectation. Everybody says that's what I say because that's how they interpret it. And I think I know what they mean. And what I think they mean is this: give without attachment. Okay.
Ooh, I like
So,
that.
yeah, and that's different. See, I expect good things to happen. I want everybody to expect good things to happen. If you're bringing immense value to the lives of others, I want you to expect good things to happen, or else, come on, what's the point of life? I mean, you give great value, but here's the thing: it's not that that person had to get back from that person. Although, again, I think they put so much of their time, effort, and in what should have been billable dollars into that I think it was kind of productive for her, and it trained them that they don't have to pay her for
Wow.
doing the really important work. But I'd say this: no, give value, understanding it's not always going to come back from that person, and maybe not even from someone else, and it doesn't have to. That's where non-attachment comes in. But understand this, okay? And again, we're tapping into human nature. When you take your focus off yourself, Mark, and you focus on providing immense value to others, discovering what they need, want, and desire, okay? When you can focus on helping to solve their challenges, when you can help move them to happiness, and you do this constantly and consistently, what you're doing is you're creating what we call that benevolent context for your success. And this is where business comes back to you in such abundance. Now, sometimes it happens very quickly, and other times it happens far in the future. and
Mhm.
sometimes 3 weeks later, and sometimes 3 months later, and sometimes this, right? And that's why it's something that if you do it with an attachment to results, you're going to come across that way. You're going to come across as needy, and you're going to come across, right? But again, you've also got to go with giving value doesn't mean you just give yourself away and give the store away. There's many ways to give value to others without actually giving away your product or service that you should be getting paid for.
Yeah. Hey, I want to unpack this in relationship to top performers, but something I want to talk about right now, get you to share. That's your daily. You send out a daily email to people, right?
Yeah, 5 days a week. Yeah,
5 days a
Monday through
week,
Friday. Mhm.
and that's all designed to do what?
That is just to create value and keep my name in front of them. And we also usually do a little thing at the bottom of it where it directs them to a certain thing. So again, uh, you know, we do great with that because at the bottom of it, we have little things about for them to get my endless referrals, the Go Giver Way course, or attend our Kathy Tajanel's and my Go
Mhm.
Giver Success
Mhm.
Alliance Beyond the Mastermind, or to have me come in and speak. There's usually a little ad at the bottom,
Yeah.
but
I
there's
I
so much.
love that because you're giving and you're practicing what you preach. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
and exactly, and so, it turns out to be, but I get tons of compliments from people about the value that I'm not saying it to brag, I'm just saying that's the
yeah,
idea of the
right.
thing.
Yeah.
I've
You
never
are
had anyone say they were mad because, "Oh, you're putting down a little advertisement for yourself at the bottom." Now, I'm sure people have unsubscribed for that reason, maybe they
yeah,
have, but they weren't the people who were ever going to utilize my services probably, and, if they've unsubscribed for that reason, it's too bad. I would feel badly about that
right,
because 'cause I'd hate for
right.
for them to do it for that reason, but I also honor their right
But
to
you're
do it.
giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving. Now, let's tie this back to a top performer.
Uh-huh.
Top sales performers, I believe, if they want to stay at the top, have to have this level of giving, this level of serving. And you see it not only at work, but you see it at home. You see it really in their lives 24/7.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do you believe that? I mean, do you see that too, or is it no? I've seen top performers, not
Well,
buying.
first of all, let me clarify something because I think this is very important. We have people who we call go givers, which simply means they're focused on providing immense value to others. There's go getters who are people of action. We like to say be both a go getter, a person of action, and a go giver, someone who's absolutely focused on bringing value to others. We'd say the opposite of a go giver is a go taker. That's that person who is absolutely just focused on themselves. It's all about them. It's all about me, me, me. Now, here's the thing, Mark. You can actually there are go takers out there who do very well financially. Now, it's much more difficult because you don't have people who are really rooting for you or on your side who don't even necessarily like you, but for whatever reason, that go taker has a certain skill set or just some drive, or they've created something and they do bring value to the marketplace. Inadvertently, they do. That might not be their goal, but that is what they do. Now,
Yeah.
I'll say this, being a go taker is more difficult to sustain because you've got to just keep repeating the process. It's like the old sales joke about, that person's always looking for a new territory because everybody in his hates him, that sort of thing, and doesn't want to do business with him. But they can still do that. They can.
I
Difficult to,
yeah. I love how you say that, the go giver and the go taker.
yeah, and it's
And
difficult to sustain as a go
it
taker,
is.
but they can.
It
But
is.
their relationships
Yeah.
personally are usually horrible because they
Right,
can
right.
fix
And because again, you're out there as a one man band.
it.
And
Exactly.
really, I always say sales is not a solo activity. Sales is a team sport.
Exactly.
So anyway,
So with a go giver, it's much more sustainable. It's
yeah,
easier to be successful
yeah,
as a go giver.
good.
Um, but yes, as you said, yeah, they're always serving. That's what they have in mind. Um, Adam Grant in his book Give and Take cited a study of Australian financial advisors, the ones who are absolutely at the top of their field, highest money earning, sustainably consistent, top right. And what was the defining attribute of them? Well, was it that They believe in their product, sure, but so do a lot of people. A lot of people who believe in their product or service are broke, or do okay, right? Did they have great product knowledge? Sure, they did, but so do a lot of people who are just barely eking by, right?
Yeah.
Oh, did they have great sales skills? Sure, they did. You and I both know many people who know all the sales skills and still barely get by, or they're fairly successful, but nothing special, right? No, what set them apart is that they put the interest of their clients first, before themselves and before their company. And as a result, they and their companies were the most sustainably successful, financially profitable.
I love it. And with that, we need to wrap up the show. Bob, how do people get in touch with you?
Best place is Burg, BURG.com. I'm a simple guy.
Great. Simple guy. I love it. And of course, the book, Go Giver, you got to get the book if you've not read it. It's like I said, 7,000 Amazon reviews. With that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic. That's the other podcast I get to do. Thank you for listening to the Sales Hunter podcast. Today's guest has been Bob Burg, where we've been really focusing on serving others as the way we succeed in sales. Hey, I also want to say thank you to the audience, because last year we finished the Sales Hunter podcast as the top ranked new podcast on iTunes. So thank you very much, in the sales category, I should say. Hey, with that, thank you so much for listening. Do us a favor, leave us a review, because it's really how we love to be able to share the news as to what you can get. Each week you get 2 episodes. One episode, a short one from me, just a short 8-9 minute one, and the other one, a longer one like you're hearing today with Bob Burg. Thank you so much. Bob, been great having you on the show.
Thank you, Mark. You're awesome. Thank you.